Big shout out to Bean Working Espresso down in Skyring Terrace, Newstead.
Best coffee in the game.
Best absolute coffee in the game. Hooking the Platform podcast and any listeners up with a 10% discount.
Shout out.
Shout out to Yolanda.
Yolanda.
That was a mouthful.
Their coffee's real fucking good. Get
Best coffee in the game, by far. Just opened up Skyring Terrace. You can order ahead and mention the Platform podcast for a 10% discount. This is the Platform podcast with B-Bad and Brandon. I love tea.
I don't.
I love tea, but I just can't have milk. So.
Oh, that really spoils it a bit.
No,
what about like Zimmel or something?
Nah, no milk
Zimmel.
whatsoever. So I
Oat
use
milk.
oat milk, if anything, but I don't want to put
Let's be
that in
honest,
tea.
that ain't milk. That's
Nah.
just
No,
oat.
it's not.
It's weird.
It's not.
I hope you're
You
recording
gotta
now
call
because
it-
this is great content.
Call
like-
it something else.
Yeah.
Because
Don't lie. Milk is milk.
When I was in
milk.
hospital
Yeah.
for the bowel infection, they wouldn't let me have any milk in my tea.
Yeah.
So I just got used to drinking black tea,
Yeah.
and I was on a clear liquid diet. So I'd fucking knock back so many teas just to feel something. Because you don't... You know, I found out that like the soup they give you is just a beef stock cube in like warm water.
Oh,
you didn't know that?
So nourishing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. It's like, the fuck is this? That and jelly is what I lived off.
Oh, I fucking love
The
jelly.
hospital jelly was pretty dope. It's like, oh, you can't give me more of this.
Fucking send it.
Fuck. What else were we
What
talking?
colour jelly would you have? Do you have a preference?
That's a really good question. That should be one of the 10.
Yeah, we're due for another 10 soon. 'Cause
I do like the green.
Yeah, because you can't tell me each coloured jelly doesn't taste different.
No, of course, they're
Yeah.
different flavours.
They aren't exactly
But
right.
do they have like sugar in them though, or do they have it?
I'm all about the sugar.
Yeah.
Oh, you need sugar.
We made jelly recently. Like, you
Did
just
ya?
get the gelatin and then
Yeah.
put fruit juice with it.
Yeah, right.
And so, no fucking... The colour
What's
is
that like?
just... It's fucking really good, actually. It's really, like...
So it's
Which
like a
juice do you
classic
use?
homemade.
Like connoisseur jelly.
Yeah,
And we
right.
put a
This
little
is
bit-
you put vodka in there too?
You could put vodka in there,
Episode 50?
but like, what juice are you using?
Well, we did like beetroot with like a bit of apple and blackcurrant.
Okay,
And
I could get around that.
and I
Damn,
forget
bro.
what else was in that one.
That is
and we did
gourmet.
one like with a bit of orange and apple and ginger and carrots.
Yeah,
Carrots a bit.
it's a hit and miss. If you
Yeah,
get a bad
it's-
carrot, it's fucked.
Yeah.
So you blending these juices up yourself?
Yeah.
Fuck. Do you have
And then-
like?
You got a good juicer?
Yeah. Do you have a preferred brand out there for anyone? Because I'm a
no.
big nudie juicer.
No.
Or do you
no,
juice
no,
yourself?
we juiced it ourselves.
Yeah,
So
right.
we've got this fucking Breville, juicing machine, which I haven't used in like 5 years, and it's like, okay, we're making jelly, so we'll get the juicer out.
Fuck yeah.
But then like the orange juice, I just bought.
Yeah.
I just buy the Aldi one, like as long as
Right.
it's proper
Yeah.
juice.
Aldi has
squeezed
actually
juicer.
really
yeah,
good
yeah,
fucking-
I would like to request some of this jelly. Fuck
yeah,
it,
and
please.
there's two ways to do it. There's jelly like with jelly, but then we made jellies. You just bought like double the gelatin and they're lollies. But
Oh, get fucked.
they're fucking like protein. Like the gelatin's like 80% protein.
Yeah, gelatin's packed
and
with
good
protein.
And then the
Well, it
rest.
helps with connective tissues.
Yeah, and the rest is like fruit and veggies. Oh, well, you put sugar in it as well, of course.
Yeah, you gotta
but,
top it up.
That's sick.
Dude, that's fucking incredible. Yeah,
Fuck the rest of the
probably
podcast,
Monday
let's
you'll
just
bring
talk
some
about
in. Monday you'll bring some in.
I don't know about Monday, but I'll put some on sometime before Christmas.
Oh, fuck
we'll do
yeah.
some more.
Give me some fucking
Yeah.
jelly.
They'll give you
baby.
some red and green for Christmas.
I
Jelly.
love jelly and custard.
Oh, how good's custard?
Oh, custard.
Are you a custard man? What are you
Not
shaking
much,
your
no.
fucking head for now?
You don't like custard? What? What? Why?
Are you... Okay. What? Trifle is like... Everyone, you like trifle? Trifle?
Yeah.
Can't.
Bro, fuck.
Can't know what
Trifle
trifle.
is like a family tradition in my Christmas. A family
Yeah,
Christmas.
it's a Christmas thing
And
too,
people
yeah.
like... Trifle's not a dessert. Like, get fucked, it isn't. It's one of the best desserts. I will fucking put my foot down right now on this podcast.
Your foot is down.
It is down, but the other one's coming down now.
There's 2
But I
feet down on
fucking
you, bro.
love trifle. I will get around a good trifle. Like, there is shit in there that I'm not allowed to eat, but I will put my body through hell to taste that glory.
That's what you got to do.
Fucking trifle.
And family recipe too.
Oh, fucking
yeah,
oath. I'm blessed with my family. They're like, being Italian, fuck, we grew up with some foods.
And they're my ties. You know it's only 34 days till Christmas.
Jesus Christ.
Literally.
That gave me a little bit of
Birthday.
panic, so I
That was his
really wish I
birthday.
didn't know that.
That's his birthday.
Whose?
Jesus Christ.
Oh,
Yeah. Apparently, anyway. It's in that book.
the Bible.
That's the
Yeah, that
story.
book. Yeah, that's the story.
Has anyone read the Bible here?
I've read some bits.
Read some bits?
Yeah, there's some cool stuff in there.
There is, yeah, I've-
Sodomy, incest, all kinds of stuff. is in
It's
there.
like there's a lot to it. I don't think people realize. Hey, it's very deep. I want to read it just for like insight, and see where like a lot of people get their, it's interesting to see where people or why they hold on to something so passionately when it's like, oh, there's flaws here.
yeah, it's a big flaws there.
Yeah, but again, I mean, and that's coming from someone who like had to go to fucking church as a kid.
Yeah.
Did you?
Yeah, Italians, man, they're
Damn,
fucking
they love that
religious.
shit, eh?
Oh my god.
And Catholic
Yeah,
church
Catholic-
too.
yeah,
like,
fucking Catholic
man,
church.
that's a snooze. Catholic wedding. Whew. When I want to go to sleep, that's a good place.
Actually,
to
we'll
start.
shout out because talking about Catholic wedding. My sister got married in a church, and it was by this this sounds so mean now that I think about it, but she got married by this Asian priest and like legend of a bloke, great dude, but very strong Asian background. And every time he said Holy Spirit, it was Holy Spirit, and I just and I was a lot younger at the time, and I'm just sitting there going, don't be the dickhead that's laughing at all the wedding photos. But enough of the shit chat. Welcome to the Platform
Oh, here we
Podcast,
are. Woo!
Mr. Ken.
That could be the greatest intro ever.
Thank you. Yeah, fucking hell. Jelly. You had me at jelly shots.
Ooh, shit.
So-
Broke it. Sorry, no.
Noel, can we just quickly fix Johnny's...
Am I good?
It's just tighten it up, John.
Just don't touch it.
Fuck.
Just edit that
Yeah.
bit out.
But, Ken, first question off the ranks.
Okay.
Mr. B-Bad.
Mr. Ken, 21 words. Who you are and what you do. He counts them. You say them.
Okay.
Any sounds count from
Okay.
when I say go. Are you ready? Okay, I'll say go in a second. Go.
Registered acupuncturist, manual therapist, business owner, part-time dad, disabled powerlifter, all-around good bloke, and a man of few words.
Why did we get you on the podcast? No, I'm just kidding.
21?
That was 21.
You practiced, didn't you?
I might have seen it done before. But if I didn't know I had 21, but I knew I could throw in an arm or something if I needed one more.
Yeah.
That's always. I feel like everyone needs to get. Here's a little tactic for everyone, and Mr. Luke Poley, if you're listening, you especially. First time we've mentioned Luke in a while. Shout out Luke Poley. Yeah, get everything in the first 15, and then give yourself 6 words to be like,
Just to burn.
I'm the baddest motherfucker on the planet. Like, whatever. Well, where do we begin?
Mate, acupuncture. Where'd that start for you, bro?
Ooh, well, that would have started very early. The seed was planted very early in teenage years.
Yep.
With kung fu training,
Oh, there we go.
and then that kind of sat dormant for quite a while.
It's based off Chinese.
Chinese Chinese philosophy, and
Yeah.
it's the classics, the acupuncture classics that were 3,000 years old.
Yeah, fuck.
But yeah, so that was the seed was planted there. I had a really interesting kung fu teacher, a guy by the name of Malcolm Su. He had a big kung fu school here in the valley. He was a Chinese doctor as well as a really
right.
good martial artist, and he was really well known for also probably a lot of other stuff that he probably wouldn't want to be really well known for. He was a colourful character, but really positive influence on me, and the school itself was a positive influence and introduced me to Buddhist philosophy and Taoist philosophy and the this basic Chinese medicine stuff, and that's where the fascination began.
Because with acupuncture, it's based on what's a chart?
They would call meridians or
Yes,
channels,
yes.
acupuncture channels, and it's like a system, a model of explaining circulation through the body, and it's not, the channels don't actually match up with any known structures. It doesn't quite match up with the blood flow, or it doesn't quite match up with the nervous system, but it's really strongly associated with those different areas. But and they talk about qi and blood flow. So, which is really difficult concept because most people just say qi is energy.
Yeah.
And it's not actually what qi means. It's really, I think a lot of people just conflate it with new age ideas about energy.
Yeah.
But I just like to try and explain it simply for people, and you got to keep it simple because it's complicated. It just, you get lost in it. But it's circulation, and so there's lots of stuff that circulates. Blood, obviously, and fluids, and fluids through the lymph system or fluids through just interstitial spaces, and you've got nervous system, electrical currents flowing through there, and you've got smaller electrical charges that flow through those connective tissues and stuff. And any of those processes where things are supposed to travel to communicate with different parts of the body, if they get blocked, the circulation's not moving properly, then you can get pain or diseases coming out of that. And so one of the core parts of that whole Chinese model is keeping that circulation moving properly and removing blockages from that system where they're there, and then good health will flow from that.
Because it's kinesiology is a separate entity.
Kinesiology uses some Chinese medicine theory, and they don't necessarily hold true to the parts that they take, but they have their own theory on top of that.
Because it's a similar thing about
they
keeping energy moving and circulation.
Yeah, that's right.
It's an interesting concept because, as you said before, it's not. They don't match up to how, if we look at science. For people listening, I'm doing the air quotes. Science. I don't know why I air quoted that, but if we look at it, doesn't match up specifically. I think I said that right for the first time ever in my life. To the nervous system or the lymphatic system, whatever it is, but it still gets really good results.
And it's just a model, it's like I say, the classic's 3,000 years old, and in Chinese culture, they really revere that old book, whereas in Western culture we tend to, oh, that's old and that's shit now, and we laugh at the newer stuff, but they've always revered the classics and sort of had that as their foundation as they built on top of that. And so, this model is 3,000 years old. It's obviously
it's older
not
than
going to
time.
hold up to our scrutiny of modern understanding of anatomy and chemistry and all these things, but it's still useful after all that time.
That's pretty cool.
And there's stuff that maybe they didn't understand then and that we understand better, and we can add that in, or maybe there's stuff that they actually understood better and we actually still haven't caught up with it yet.
That's a brilliant thing. I think in the Western culture, we very much look at, oh, well, it's broken, throw it away. Let's look what's new. Where it's well, this has been around for 3,000 years. That's longer than our traditional date and time that we know of right now. There's got to be some merit to it.
And even where you find fault in the model is still useful. And so, the Chinese culture has been very good at that too, of where two models that contradict each other, but we like them both anyway, and we
kind of bring them together. And for you, do you find that you're, I guess, because I've seen you train, you're strong as hell, and do you find you're bridging a little bit of the gap between the missing information in Chinese medicine and what you know now as a...
I try to, and demystifying it, I guess, is something that I try and do.
Good word to use there.
Because, a lot of people will find it in their interest to mystify it as much as possible, and it's look at this I can
it's
do.
Considered like a voodoo.
And you can play on that, and look, I'm like Jesus Christ because I can do this, and how do you think I did that? But...
Stop playing if you like. You're banned.
But I like to and I've you get attracted to that when you see it, and but then you can see if you just hang around the scene for a bit, you can see a lot of people are full of shit. And it's nice to be able to see who's full of shit and who's not, and what's real and what's not. And I like to try and make it easy for other people.
Do you think those people who and I've seen plenty of acupuncturists who are shit, and I've seen really good ones, and I obviously hang around yourself long enough to know that people speak highly of you. Do you believe it is the people that don't see the flaws in the acupuncture system that are full of shit and they're trying to push that, or do you see a correlation there? Because again, the people that I've seen that are good are the ones that can recognize it as just a system, as a model, and then apply what they also have learned through other aspects and go, these are the missing parts.
I think there's two different things there. You got people that are very dogmatic on, this is, which is great to respect the lineage and the history that, and well, it's infallible and we have everything here is 100% correct. And I think I mean, in my opinion, those people can be fooling themselves and they can be full of shit. But then there's people that know they're full of shit, but they just say what they need to say. To,
Yeah,
to like I say, to play.
We know a
the
person just like that. His best mate.
Your mate.
Your old coach.
Yeah, your fucking mate. Your old coach too, actually.
Oh,
So
everyone is.
I'm curious to go back to 3,000 years ago.
Yeah.
What were they doing back then? Do you
Yeah,
have
well,
much-
it's definitely different. Like,
was there needlework and stuff
there's
like there is
needles,
now?
but like 3,000 years ago, it'd be a lot more focus on bleeding and
Bleeding?
You like so the technology of it. You know how fine the needles we
Yeah.
needles I use up
Yeah,
there.
yeah,
You know, like, there's needles people use now that are like I don't go that skinny that much,
Yep.
but 0.1 something of a
Barely feel it
millimeter,
go
and
in,
I'm
right?
using like 0.2 to 0.3
Yep.
of a millimeter. Like so, they obviously couldn't do that.
Of a
3,000
millimeter.
of a millimeter, 0.3 of a millimeter
Like-
diameter. So,
Wow.
That's tiny.
so they obviously couldn't do that 3,000 years ago, and they think that a lot of the very first stuff, there's these little bone and stone tools that
Yep.
have archaeological sites have, and they
Yeah.
think that might have been where a lot of the stuff started, and
Yep.
then bleeding is something that was a lot bigger back
Bleeding?
in that period of time. Yeah, and bleeding is still something.
Because I've
in
had that
Chinese
before. It's like when
medicine
you
now.
try
I've
and like,
had a bleeding before. It was like a chop suey kind of thing happened on my back or something, and they did some cupping.
bled it on purpose.
Yeah, and then the cupping and they
Yeah,
drew
or
stuff out.
sometimes they bleed and they suck it out.
Yeah, I've had that.
I've done
I mean, I don't do much of that stuff because probably mostly because I don't want to just play around with blood. But
Fair, very
but,
fair.
it's a big thing. Like with
What are they thinking behind
like
that?
there's a lot. It's a big tradition with Muslim cultures to do it at a certain time of year, I think,
Yep.
and they do the blood cupping just
Yep.
to pull out bad blood or that's not circulating properly, or they do like some people just bleed a tiny little spot,
Yep.
and you can see that the first part comes out dark, and,
Yep.
and then the fresh red stuff comes out behind it.
Yeah.
But
So that's kind of the thinking, trying to get rid of the bad blood and remove that
Yeah.
from the surface.
yeah, or clear out heat.
Yep.
Another thing. These are like commonly done, like bleeding the ears or bleeding the fingers if there's some
Wow.
kind of fever and something like that. It's
Yeah.
quite a common little thing. And look, I've seen it work. I don't understand how it works.
Yep.
But
Yep.
I've seen it work. People do some bleeding and then the fever settles down. So
Fuck, that's some voodoo, but that's
yeah,
cool
it's
as
like, that's what I mean.
fuck.
Like, you can't. It's not based on science, and then like
But if someone's feeling better afterwards,
exactly,
how do you say it didn't?
How do you say it didn't work?
yeah.
And that's what I think a lot of people kind of, we live in that Western culture where it's like technology is a great tool but a better master. So we have something tangible to look at. Whereas based on a feeling, people are like, did it work?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, I feel great. And I've gone and seen plenty of acupuncturists, as I said before.
And the
I
other thing
feel
is
great.
maybe it's not wrong. They might think it's wrong now just because they don't understand it. But
Yeah,
in
yeah.
5-10 years' time, maybe they do understand how
Yeah.
and why it worked, and then fuck, hang on a second, that actually was a thing.
Yeah.
Have there been more research now into the science behind?
Tons of research.
Yeah.
There's more acupuncture research than there is for, like probably more than other kinds of physiotherapy and
Yeah.
stuff like that. Acupuncture trials, there's so many. But, and they're shown to work really well for a number of things. And there's some other things where it hasn't necessarily shown to work well. Things like headaches, back pain, hay fever, there's lots of little, nausea, and there's tons of things that we've really got strong evidence to say it works, and it works better than placebo.
Yep.
And then there's other trials where sometimes they try and do placebo acupuncture where they just put the needle somewhere else or something, and sometimes those results get really good results, and they might be just as good as the real acupuncture. And they go, "We'll see, acupuncture didn't work better than placebo." But then there's trials that have done that, and then the placebo acupuncture works better than the drug that they use to treat the same thing. So
It's
you
like
have to say it didn't work, and that drug supposedly works better than placebo when it
Yep.
was tested. So
Fuck.
there's just stuff that we don't understand about how it works, but there's lots of things where it's got really good evidence that it works, and some where the evidence is not there yet. But if the evidence is not there yet, doesn't mean that
It's
it
not
doesn't
there.
work for that
Yeah.
either, because it's really expensive to run these big trials.
100%.
And where it's really, really well proven to work is with pain, and there's lots of research behind the mechanism for that.
Yep. And I think the fact that the thing's 3,000 years old,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
there
something
has
to
to be
last
some. People have
3,000
been getting
years.
results, whether it's scientifically
Yeah.
qualified or not, for 3,000 years. That's why it still exists.
Yeah.
I mean, how long's physio been around for? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's new.
In comparative,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So then with mechanism and stuff, there's lots of research into that. And there's like more that we don't understand than what we do understand, I think. But we know that you put a needle in somewhere, the nervous system detects that, you know, your nerves sense that there's a needle, sends a signal to the brainstem, and then from there, the brainstem can set off other processes. And they know that, you know, there's these your endogenous opioids, your body's own pain. There's neuropeptides, there's endorphins, enkephalins, dynorphins. There's all these little chemicals that they know when you stick a needle in, somehow that they're triggered to be released, and the pain control mechanisms come from that. This whole little different network of signalling that takes place after that. That's been really well studied. And actually what we know about pain mechanism itself largely comes out of acupuncture research.
Yeah, wow.
That's unreal.
It just still baffles me that people are so like against it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I guess it's
100%.
with most things, but
They just don't know. Because I know when, even, I won't name any clients, but people have said, because they don't know what acupuncture, they're like, oh, what Ken's do upstairs? I said he does acupuncture, remedial therapies. Like, oh, acupuncture. I said, no. I said, just go up there and see him. I said, and then they'll be the ones that always come out like thinking, holy fuck.
Yeah.
I said, and I'll joke, you know my joke. I said, if he pulls out a chicken, just run with it. He does some crazy shit up there, but fuck, it's good and it works.
Yeah.
Is that a chicken?
I think
Has a hat ready.
Yeah, but all it is like, I think, like you said, there's that common stigma of like, oh, acupuncture. Nah.
Yeah. Well, I think it's probably
it's
helped.
funny though, because they're either a part of two parties. They're either all for it or fucking against it. I haven't met anyone where it's like, oh, it's all right or it's pretty good. Like I've had good ones, but it's just you're either left field or you're right field. It's insane.
I mean, there's a lot of people that are just scared of needles. That's a big thing.
Okay.
Yeah, but
Can't do much about that, you know. Like it's a natural thing. We've got it to some degree, mostly, you know.
But the needles, like as you said, fucking nothing.
And it hurts way less. If you go to a physio that gets in you with his hands and his elbows, that stuff hurts way more than what I do with the needle.
Let's just be real. Dry needling, like
Well, now dry needling's helped a lot, I think, with that whole question too. Like, so they might have thought acupuncture's bullshit, but then their physio does dry needling, and it's like,
What's the
physio
difference?
does it? He's not.
And what's aside? And they've done a 2-day course versus a fucking degree, right?
Yeah. You know, the first thing I'd say when people ask me what's the difference between is dry needling is acupuncture.
Yep.
Make no mistake, that is still acupuncture. And a lot of people will go to make great pains to say how it's definitely not, and they're two totally different things. And yeah, that is a big thing, the training. Like, so to be an acupuncturist, in this country, you have to be registered, you have to have done a 4-year degree or been grandfathered in from being doing a long time before. But 40 years degree with hundreds of hours of training. And the idea of us being registered is because it's dangerous. If you don't know what you're doing, bad things can happen.
Could I stop asking
Yeah,
questions?
sure.
Someone once said to me, because those needles could go into a lung.
Yes, the lung is probably the most dangerous thing. If you put it into a lung, it's not a good.
That's a bad day.
Lung collapse, it wouldn't be a good day.
And
it's never happened to me, but it happens.
And that's a big structure, the lung in the body. And if you got a longer needle, like
you got to know what you're doing when you're putting it anywhere around the rib cage at all. You know,
it's funny though, because like I just quickly pulled up the meaning of acupuncture. And it's like the definition provided was puncture of the skin by a needle.
Right.
Which is dry needling, except they're both looked at in completely two different lenses.
And I'm like, well, part of it might be because, you know, like you have to call yourself an acupuncturist, you have to be registered.
True.
To do a dry needling course, you do some online component, and then you can go and do 1 or 2 days practical training and start practicing on your patients.
Here's your needles, off you go.
And I'm not trying to disparage, because those guys do great work, but probably the training standard probably should be increased,
a little bit,
especially when you've got a lot of acupuncturists, especially get a bit butthurt.
They get a bit
They've
fucking
done so
whingy,
much training and paid this money to get this registration, and then this guy just, why didn't we just go do the weekend course?
I get that.
But you know, like I say, they do really cool work. it is quite simple just to know to find where the sore tight part is, put a needle in that and release it. You can get great results. And a lot of people will come to see me because they've had that done, like, oh yeah, some dry needling done, and it worked really good. And so I thought I'd come and just get get it done properly.
Do you have to kind of have that conversation with them, like, oh, we use a smaller needle, it's a little bit different, it's not or I've found in my acupuncture experience, it's not as harsh.
Yeah.
Is probably the word I'd use.
Are you targeting it differently? Is that kind of what's happening? Like, if I got a sore.
So look, I do also, although I have the traditional training and background, and I do that, I do the same thing also, the dry needling stuff. A lot of people, to them, dry needling means it's based on trigger point theory by Travell and Simons, and I'm trained in that, and I do that often as well. If there's a tight muscle there, the quickest way for me to release it is to find the trigger point or the motor point of that muscle and stimulate that. And it's just the quickest, most simple way to release. And I do that as well. But then, I'm also trained in other ways to do that.
Could you explain trigger points more in depth? Because you mentioned there, because I feel like this is it's a very commonly spoken about topic of we got to trigger, trigger point this, or trigger point that.
Yeah. I'll just simply, you get these tight little bands of muscle or parts of the muscle that get really tight. They're holding contraction there when they should be at rest, so why? And then, that. And so Travell and Simons are two people that really did a lot of study on it. And
is that semi-recent?
I think that was probably 1950, 1960 kind of era. For a long time, they put a lot of work into that. And they sort of mapped out that for every muscle, there's a few different spots where it likely will be located, and they get tight and they get painful, and they radiate a certain pain referral pattern. They had another way of releasing them with this spray, some other method anyway. But then dry needling was
derived from that.
Yeah. And actually, the word dry needling was because before Travell and Simons, going back to the 1940s, I think, they were doing experiments where people had pain, and they would inject, local anesthetic into the pain points. And then as the control groups for that, they had injecting saline, and another group where they had a dry hypodermic needle with nothing in it. It's a dry needle. And later, that's where the terminology came from. But they found that they were doing these kind of trials, they were finding that the empty needle worked just as well as the other ones. And so that's how dry needling came about.
Holy shit.
And by the time the 1970s came around, there was a lot of interest in acupuncture in the 1970s, and people doing the dry needling research just started using acupuncture needles. So for my mind, when they're using an acupuncture needle, that's when it stopped being a separate thing. They're starting to... Because in the traditional acupuncture, there's we got acupuncture points that are mapped out. This point is here and this point's there. But then there's, they call it ashu points. It's just basically the same thing. You're finding where the sore, tender spot is, and you needle that spot. So that's what trigger points is, just fitting into that category of acupuncture.
I guess that's just another attestment and approval for the acupuncture. Essentially, almost, isn't it?
Yeah, it's basically they were latecomers catching up to what they were already doing in Asian countries. And they did some really cool research, they do exactly what... In the old traditional stuff, they don't have each muscle having separate name for it. And the anatomy is not so precisely labelled. And by going through so systematically like we have now with the modern research, it's been a real good addition to what we do. And, for people that say, the dry needling we do is so different to the Chinese style, I think, what you think that we don't also study anatomy. But then, to be fair, I've recently found out, there's a lot of people that I study with, or that study the same as I have, that didn't have that lecturer that taught them that stuff. And they actually, a lot of people that don't know, and I think, maybe I was just really lucky that I had good lecturers that also taught us how to do the dry needling theory and stuff, and to have that. And then I had to put a lot of extra hours in myself to have good anatomical knowledge to know where all that stuff is, and not just go by where a channel pathway is.
You actually have a deeper understanding of what's going on in that body and anatomy.
And I was lucky when I started my career that I sort of got myself into clinics where there's lots of different kinds of practitioners of different modalities and physios and exercise phys and psychologists, everything. And you can just sort of like learn a little bit off them from their different perspective. And you know, so you pick up a lot from that. It was really valuable to me. That just what you get from experience after you've already graduated.
That's your opportunity to continue learning, right?
It's not so much that it broadens your scope of practice, but it just makes you aware of what works in each thing and what you can take from that to apply to what you know.
And it's really good when you've got a good place that people can cooperate together. You know, like working with exercise physiologists. Like typically someone comes in, they've got an acute injury, I can get them out of pain, but that injury, like how did it develop? It probably because of something of a weakness or an imbalance in their muscles, and I'm really good at releasing the tight stuff, but if they want to like strengthen up the stuff that's weak, you know, it requires, and especially if it's a chronic injury that's, you know, it requires some exercise, some lifestyle stuff to get to remove the cause of the problem, and like it works really good to have those different kinds of practitioners that can really get them through that too. And then working here, I got the you know, trainers downstairs, me upstairs, and I can really feed back with you guys and say, like you've really got imbalance between left and right in the glutes there, and it's going to adjust your training, and it's really good like that. So up here, I'm mostly by myself.
And then we see you down here sometimes with your clients actually putting them through stuff as well. So you can see how they're fucking moving and stuff, which I think is unreal.
It's a cool opportunity to do that stuff here too, or to just take the dumbbell upstairs and it's like it hurts when I do. Well, here, what size dumbbell do you need, and we can test it out.
Have a look
and we
at
can then test it straight after treatment. It's not hurting anymore, you know.
That's unreal.
That's the best part.
And ripping in and doing your own training certainly got to help your knowledge base and get a deeper understanding of sort of what's going on with the people you get to work with and stuff as well.
It provides empathy, doesn't it?
You
can understand what people are going through.
Well, I started into this training because of trying to overcome my injuries. There was back issues was the first thing, and actually would have been Paul Pegler that I was working with then, that he would have said, look, your glutes and hammies are too weak, your lower abs aren't working properly.
Of course, everyone knows Paul.
Of course you know Pegler.
I mean, you've had him on here a couple of times, so so that would have been the start, you know, and then working with a lot lot of exercise physio.
At start training?
It wasn't at start, it was before start was a thing, but a lot of those guys that work there, I've worked with them at other places.
You've worked
as well.
with other places.
Fuck. But and then from there, just working with exercise physiologists to try and strengthen that glutes and hammies ended up me being me. Like if a little bit's good, then why don't I want to just try and deadlift as much as I possibly can? You know? And then like we didn't bench because like I got this really bad arthritis in my shoulder, and it's like bench was on the list of like just don't do that. It stirs it up, and like it was a year of doing deadlifts and squats before I was like, I just got the empty bar and tried out the empty bar, and like, it turned out I could do that all right. Within a few months, we maxed.
What did you bench last week? Last year? 160 or something?
160, yeah. Well, the first time I maxed out, we'd give it 2 or 3 months, and I maxed out 110 or something like that. So it ended up being my best lift. And it's questionable whether I should be doing it with but like, you know, I just know if I do nothing, like I've been through periods of times doing nothing, and my shoulder got a lot worse doing nothing.
It's like that, you know, injuries can get worse either way from not doing anything.
I think might as well. If I can have a fuck shoulder either way. I might as well be strong.
And have some fun doing it.
And it's fun, you know. I mean, probably the balance. You got to get the balance right, and probably I'd be better off if I just had a really light weights and some rubber bands and doing some.
Boring.
There's no fun in that, and I think the big thing I get out of it is pain management, you know, like you're putting that under load. Like, it hurts a bit, you know, and I have to be careful how much I load it because, you know, if I don't want to stir it up too much, I want it to settle down so I can hit it again later in the week. But just that pain management, I think, from doing that. Otherwise, if you try and avoid, that hurts, so I'm not going to do it. And it's a chronic problem that's not going away. Well, you end up the pain just gets amplified. You're spending your time trying to avoid something that you can't avoid.
That's the thing, though. Like, if the pain amplifies by you doing something, all right, cool, stop. What else can you do? There's going to be some angle, some exercise, some degree to which you can press. You just got to find it.
Yeah.
And then,
Find what you
'cause
can.
when you can find
Yeah.
what you do, you're like, oh, well, why can I do this? Not that. Find out why, and then address that.
Yeah, yeah. So the difficulties with me with osteoarthritis is just like I mean, I was not supposed to have it now. Like, I had diagnosed osteoarthritis when I was 29 years old. Like,
How old are you
fuck.
now?
I'm 45 now. I'm
See, I
well
wouldn't
into the
have picked
masters
that.
now.
I wouldn't have picked that. Maybe like a strong 38, maybe. Maybe, but like 45, fuck. That's masters
I'll give you
too.
the-
I'm well
I'll give you the
into,
20
I'm well
bucks
into
later.
masters now. Yeah,
You can slip me that money later.
yeah.
But
that's
actually,
just
45.
Yeah, yeah.
So
It's
you're
just
older
'cause
than
I'm starting
Paulie.
to chew.
You're,
Am I?
you're older
Okay.
than Paulie. Holy
I
fuck.
should be stronger then.
By theory,
Yeah. I think next year when you are.
yeah, next year you'll go 1,001.
Yeah, it'll be, and bench
1,002.
260. Oh, fucking. One
Yeah.
of the rewarding things for your job must also be being able to help your clients out of that chronic pain,
It's
right?
a huge thing, yeah. Like just to have a job where I'm helping people every day.
Yep.
And sometimes you're just helping someone a little bit, but sometimes
Yep.
you make a massive change in
Yep.
someone's life. It's so good.
You know, they've been in something for years or months or whatever it is, and all of a sudden you've just given them
Yeah,
that
Yeah.
tiny bit of relief.
yeah, yeah,
It's just freedom you're giving them, isn't it?
yeah. And it's
They're
just,
just crippled by the pain.
yeah, isn't it? Some you can be really real life. Just like, I mean, it's a small thing, I guess, but someone that couldn't move their shoulder, and then they come in for a couple of treatments, and then just suddenly there's the whole shoulder they can move fully. It's like,
That's,
I've changed that.
but you have, and it's like you've made a dramatic, like, and what's that going to do to their training? What's that going to do to them as a person because their training's now better?
Yeah.
And what's that going to do to their confidence now because they can, if we're talking about this realm, they lift more weight, they're going to be more confident. Like, it just has a flow-on effect. So
And it has a flow-on effect to me of how good I feel about the morning when the alarm clock goes off.
fucking
About getting up to go to work, it does so much,
absolutely, knowing that you are.
I never
making
had that before, And I started my study pretty late. I was getting close to 30 before I started my studies. So
Really?
yeah.
What were you doing before that?
It was like I had like probably 10 solid years of just exploring all the from when I first got turned on to the idea of Chinese medicine.
Yeah.
I had 10 solid years of exploring all the things that I don't want to do in life.
I love
Just
that.
one by one, cross it, writing them on the list. so you don't do them again.
and I'm not going to go into detail on camera about that, but
So,
I can.
so if we shut the camera off, we'll just keep recording.
Yeah, I saw how Peter Baskerville's interview turned out that time. It was like it was fun to watch, but it was a bit incriminating.
we
We left all the good
fine.
stuff came when we turned it off.
That's what we'll do. We'll just,
No,
have
but I can say that I ended up was really really depressed.
Yeah.
With just not being fulfilled in what I was doing in my life, and so that's.
And how many people live that life?
Yeah, daily. Yeah.
Just accept it. And just,
Yeah,
it
and
can be.
it is what it is.
It can be a gift to get to that spot where you just fucking had enough of it. It forces you to
100%.
decide, what do I
That
want
point
do?
of no return
Yeah.
or rock bottom, whatever you want to fucking call it, like it's a gift when you look back.
Yeah.
Once you're in a good spot, you go, fuck, if that didn't happen, I wouldn't be where I am now. I fucking respect that massively.
fuck yeah. Are you still practicing kung fu or anything like that, bro?
Nah, well, the shoulders became a big hindrance for especially the kind of kung fu that I was doing. It quite a lot of trying to get the elbows in and having the strength in this position that I just couldn't get.
Fuck.
So I did find someone that does Chen style Tai Chi.
Oh yeah.
Guy by the name of Tim Yuen.
Yep.
And when started doing some training with him, and it's like it is a martial art, like
Yep.
Chen style proper. It's still like it's not you're not training with enough realism to really be a great fighter from it,
Yep.
but it is at least a martial art. It's really really painful actually.
Really?
a lot of leg strength. You just like
A lot of holds
It's like
and
doing
stuff.
tempo squats where you're getting down into this position, but just
Yep.
staying there and it just burns. It's like way
Fuck.
more painful. It's very much like a standing grappling
Yep.
kind of art. A lot of the stuff that when we get into more like the close to sparring kind of
Yep.
stuff that we
Yep.
do, it becomes sort of
So there's
throwing
still
each other around.
some small element of sparring with that
Yeah,
style
yeah,
of
it is very controlled. It starts off really basic of just trying to stick with each other and go
Yep.
through these these planned movements, but
Yep.
then it gets to the stage where it becomes more like sparring, and you
Yep.
can sort of start throwing each other around a bit and stuff like that. And it's
That's
still
fun.
good fun. Yeah. So that's much more a toned down version of
Yep.
martial arts. So I still keep my hand in there and do a little bit of it now.
Yep.
So,
That was my next question. Do you still get a bit of a chance to sort of do a little bit of that stuff now?
yeah. Like I still go once a week. I go
Yep.
meet up with the guys and do
Yep.
a group class, and then I do a little bit of training with my girlfriend, showing her how to do it
Yep.
during the week as well. And
Yep.
it's a cool little thing to stay
Yeah.
involved with.
That's-
I spend too much of my time in the gym doing my training in here to really fully apply myself to that
Yep.
now. But it's, as long as I'm having fun,
Yeah. Fuck
You
yeah.
got to have that other outlet and something
Yeah.
to express.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. The other cool thing, I know you spend a bit of time on meditation.
Yeah.
Because I want to talk about this.
Okay, cool.
Because you go to that retreat.
Yeah.
I can't pronounce the name.
Vipassana.
I see. I
Yeah.
would never have gotten that. Can you please tell the audience about that?
Yeah, so Vipassana is a Buddhist meditation. It's like it's basically some people call it insight meditation.
Yep.
But it's a mindfulness meditation. When they try and take all the Buddhism out of a religion, out of the meditation, and try and make it more marketable, it becomes mindfulness. And it's the same thing, which is cool. Like, I like to try and take demystifying stuff, to try, if this is not necessary, let's take it out. But there's, maybe they might take out too much, like, the ethics and stuff of Buddhism is also really important. But so they run these retreats. There's a tradition of this guy, S.N. Goenka. He was living in Burma, and there's this tradition there. They preserved it for thousands of years since the time of Buddha, and they had this technique of how to do it. And just the monks used to practice it, and then someone started teaching the lay people.
Yep.
And then one of these lay people had lots of people, and one of them was this S.N. Goenka. And then he took it from Burma back to India and started teaching courses there, and then teaching it for free, just to help people. And then they open centres around the world, and there's one up the coast at Pomona.
Yeah.
And so I heard about this one around the time I was starting my acupuncture studies, and as soon as I heard about it, I was like, what? Like, and it costs nothing. Like, they put you
Really?
up accommodation for 10 days. You can make a donation after
Yep.
you've done it if you feel inclined. They feed you, they house you, and they teach you to meditate. An intensive meditation. I remember.
You don't speak for 10 days.
You don't speak. Well, you'll speak occasionally. Like, you can speak to a teacher. He'll a couple of times he's going to call you up and ask you a couple of questions to make sure you're getting it. And then, if you need something that you don't have, there's another person you can ask them for anything you need. But you're not having conversations with people generally, unless you're really having problems. You can go and speak to someone, but you generally don't talk.
It's a very quiet
wow.
time.
Yeah, and as soon as I actually saw a video of people walking into a hall, just not saying anything and just sitting down. It's like, oh wow, I'm just like, as soon as I see it, I just want to do it. Like, where can I do it? And not many people react to it that way. Most people go, no talking.
That's
Yeah,
fucking
weird.
No talking. And it's like, there's lots of things about it that's hard, and not talking is not even on the list. It's actually quite pleasant,
Yeah.
It's quite pleasant.
I guess it would be for someone like yourself. Like, you're talking to people all day,
Just
every
have a
day.
little shutdown.
Yeah, I mean, you sitting there on the floor for like probably 13 hours a day sitting on the floor, like, it's
Really?
painful. You're not moving. Not moving is hard,
Yeah.
You're trying not to think. Not thinking, that's fucking hard.
Holy shit.
So
So you'll
not
sit-
talking is really easy,
That's the easy bit. So you'll sit, so like a general day for something like that, we'll be sitting in a sort of a sitting
Sitting cross-legged on the floor, and whichever way is comfortable. And you can pick the most comfortable way, and you can prop it up with cushions.
Yep.
After a few hours, or even halfway into the first day, or 1 hour sitting there like that, it's not comfortable anymore. But you start to, string a few days together of doing that every day, and you've got pains everywhere. Especially the first time. I had a lot of trouble with laying in my upper back the first time I did it. Because you're not used to sitting on the floor. We're leaning on things all the time.
What was the first experience like?
Wow.
It was really life-changing. It was really cool. Apart from being really intensely painful. But that's part of it too. So you're trying to observe these things that are going on. And normally we're spending... If something's painful, you're trying to get away from it. Or if it's pleasant, you're trying to get more of it. And you're supposed to sort of stand back from that bit a bit and just observe it. And not cling to it, because it's a waste of time. Like, as much as we get a buzz out of something, you get more of that you're still left a short while after that going, okay, well, now I need more than that. You just can't, and you can't avoid pain. Well, pain is going to be there. And so that's a big part of it. But, but it's the intensive nature of it. So I would have been happy to find a meditation class where I went for 1 hour a week and then went home and practiced half an hour a day. And if I had done that, it would have never been anything like, my whole life would have never got to where I got in that 10 days.
I've had another client, an old client go through the same. I can't pronounce the name, but
Vipassana.
But they said the exact same thing. It is the most life-changing thing he had ever done, and he told me stories of people that they would get to a certain day and they'd just start crying. And it's just like that. Everything's just released, and you come out feeling refreshed and a new outlook on the world, and a lot of insight into self, obviously, which is
the whole idea. It's going into yourself.
Yeah, and I guess that comes from the environment you're in. Like, obviously, there's no communication, there's no technology. It's very it's base living,
which is the thing in itself. These days, what do they call it? Dopamine detox or something.
Yeah.
That's part of it as well. But it's just one part of it. That's doing all this at once.
How many times have you gone back now?
Like so many times. So probably 15 times I've done this.
15 times?
Yeah, that's the 10-day. And then if you've done a few and you're practicing at home and you ticked a few boxes, you can then do longer courses. So I did, when I was studying, we had tons of spare time, tons of holidays. I think I did like 10 courses in the time that I was studying my degree, and then I wanted to do longer courses, but they were never on in school holidays. So when I finished, I took a year off and I went to India, and I started in a place, big centre in Mumbai. I did a 20-day course.
Wow.
And I hung around there for a while and toured around and did lots of courses throughout India and Nepal.
Wow.
And then when I was in Nepal, I did a 30-day course in Nepal.
You spent a whole month in this sort of environment?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And actually, after I spent the whole month there, I quickly went to another place in Nepal and spent another 17 days in silent meditation there as well.
Jeez. Wow.
And what did you gain from that?
Well, I'll go back to like the first course that I did. That was where I really, gained a lot of things. It was really life. But, I'm getting a buzz out of it. Like, it's a very psychedelic kind of, and my experience is not necessarily going to be the next person's experience.
100%.
It's really different for everyone, but it was a really psychedelic kind of experience. And I just, I was, my whole body, you're tuning. So you start off observing the breath and you're feeling it around the nose. And for a few days you do that and it becomes very sensitive and you start to feel all these little subtle vibrations and stuff happening around where you're concentrating. And then you start to go through the whole body and you're feeling these subtle vibrations. And after a week or so, it's got to the point where my whole body's just buzzing, and when I get up and walk, it's still buzzing, and then I lie down in bed at night, it's just, and I'd stay awake all night long with my, just like, like this.
Wow, vibrating.
Yeah, and didn't sleep, and it didn't matter. Like, they actually warn you, like, if you have trouble sleeping, it's okay. Like, just don't panic about looking at the clock and go, oh, I'm not asleep yet, and I've got to get up. You'll still get up in the morning refreshed. And so yeah, that really cool stuff happened, and then I just felt after that much more comfortable just in my own skin, like.
Yep.
Or I don't, like, it's a hard day at work, or I need to go home and have a drink, or it's Friday, I need to have a drink. I don't need to do it. I just, all that stuff was just removed.
Yeah.
I just, I'm feeling, comfortable in myself, or just be able to sit with myself and just experience what I'm feeling.
And how did it, change your outlook when something pissed you off in a day?
Yeah, I still get pissed off, and
But that's normal.
Yeah, totally.
You can't remove all the external stuff.
Yeah, but that's that's part of the goal of doing the practice daily and trying to not strangle, murder people when they make you angry. And I haven't always done the best. Like, I mean, haven't murdered anyone since I started. But I have not. But,
not since you started. Anyway.
But what I sometimes do is, like, I might just be a bit too quiet, and because I'm trying to avoid exploding in someone, I might say nothing, which is also not the goal. You should be able to just stay calm and be able to talk. So I certainly haven't mastered that.
What was traveling through like India and stuff like
that-
to practice something like
That was fucking. It was a terrible place to practice in a way because it's just so noisy.
Yeah.
Like I was doing a 20-day course and there's always a festival going on. There was like I forget what that one was, and there's this Indian doof music playing.
Really? And you're trying to fucking...
I'm trying to meditate. It's much better to do it here. It's so much quieter up at Pomona. We've just got a beautiful place to do it.
Yeah, wow.
But it was still cool. And Nepal wasn't too bad. There's a Kathmandu where I did the 30-day course.
Wow.
That was sitting in the foothills of the Himalayas. That was pretty cool.
Fucking cool.
Yeah.
And just people from all around the world kind of...
Yeah, and I met
like
some
that.
really cool people there. From all the way around the world. And I started in India and the people that I met and the centers in India. And then later, by the time I got to Nepal, I knew all these Nepali people that I met through the meditation centers. And these people put me up in their home for months. I just stayed, no rent or anything. They're just such, lovely people. They just looked after me.
Awesome,
It was really cool, yeah. And if I wasn't staying there or in a meditation center, I stayed in monasteries and places.
Really?
Yeah. Because I'm on pilgrim trail through there. They have all these monasteries from all these countries. And my preference was to stay in there rather. If you really got stuck, you might have to go to a hotel somewhere. But I'd much rather to stay in the monastery,
What's that like, staying in a monastery?
Yeah, it's cool to be around all that vibe, but... it's just a very basic hotel, I guess, staying in the monastery. But
and they're obviously pretty welcoming to having outside people.
Yeah, totally.
Share what they do.
They put a good feed on and stuff like that.
Really?
You pay them some money when you stay in the monastery.
Good feed?
Vegetarian feed.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
But it's,
but I'll take what I get.
You take what you get,
And you're just making a donation or something, essentially.
Yeah, I think they would have it more set up on the pilgrim trail that, where they'd have a set price for their rooms in the monasteries and stuff. I'd like to go and there's other places around where you just like to go and more spend some time as a monk there and just rather than as a guest through the pilgrim area, but different kinds of monasteries and spend a bit more time there. And then
So that's something that's on the list you'd do again?
Something on the list one day. I don't know when I'm going to get to that.
Fuck, when we're allowed to go overseas again.
I took a whole year off last time I went. So, it's now I've got a business and a clinic and people relying on me. It's much harder, but I'll do it at some stage.
And you teach people meditation?
Yeah, I do on a volunteer basis through the same people. They do for the kids. They run 1 day, 2 day courses. So I volunteer my time a few times a year and just run 1 or 2 day courses for the kids.
What's it like teaching kids how to?
It's really cool.
Sit still and stop moving, and
you really be surprised. I'm
inside.
surprised they can sit still. That's the biggest thing. And you just you look at them they all sitting there with their eyes closed. It's oh, how cool is that?
That's cool.
Because you don't think they're even going to sit there and shut up. The hard thing is to get them to keep their eyes closed. They'll often, and some of them won't, close their eyes. If they're not getting it, they'll be looking around. But it's really cool when you see them just sitting there like little Buddhas and getting it. But and you get. With a kids course, sometimes a lot of them that they don't really want to do it. Their mum and dad wants them to do it, and that's not as satisfying because it's never going to be as cool if they don't want to be there. But with the ones that do want to be there, it's awesome.
And that's got to be
so cool.
Like you said, pretty rewarding because that place has done a lot for you.
So it's my way to give back.
Right?
And then so now I've got a bit of a skill set because I'm a bit more experienced. So I can teaching the courses is a good use of my skills to sort of
Sweet. And is that something you still practice daily? For meditation?
Yeah.
Because you hear the benefits of it.
Yeah.
So much nowadays.
I mean, they talk about the
space.
benefits of have the your 5-minute guided meditation and how much it helps. I'm like, really? Does that really help? How only 5 minutes? But yeah.
From a guy who does 30 days. 5 minutes,
I
you're just getting warmed
down,
up, mate.
I would sit down for an hour at a time if I'm going to sit, or I wouldn't bother sitting down. But
yeah, that's noise cancelling
it
headphones.
it just leaves me so calm and centered and helps you to let go of all that stuff which just addictively runs around your head. You know?
Fucking oath. I heard the world could benefit from a lot more of that quiet time.
Yeah.
Fuck. All
Bro,
right. Ken, before we wrap up,
Oh, like this is the
the greatest segment of our show.
right. Yeah, this should go. Could we put it at the beginning?
So, sir, you have 30 seconds to say anything you like to the world, starting. Yeah.
So, like anything that you're
Anything.
passionate about, you want to express to the world.
You can even
Imagine
tell
if-
us the story about what you've done today. Are you ready? Doesn't matter. Set and go.
You're 5 seconds deep.
5 seconds deep. Yep. No
Really,
pressure.
I say that really, if you're going to go on a podcast, you should like see what questions they're going to ask you and prepare for something, because you never know. It could be something really important, and you might miss your chance to really make a difference on that moment of the day.
That's actually, yeah.
That's really
Good comeback. Good comeback.
Good advice for whoever comes on next. What's the strangest thing you own, think about, or do?
Ooh. Own, think about, or do. No, probably my meditation is a pretty strange thing that I do.
Yeah, 30 days at a time is not very common.
It's strange to some, it's not strange to me, but that's the thing about strangeness, isn't it?
Yeah.
Very, very good look on that.
I mean, I think of strange as being a compliment generally.
Yeah. Fuck, who wants to be normal, bro? Fuck, normal's boring. What's the most important quality in a human?
Oh, I'd say my first thought is kindness. I think it's being decent to other people is pretty good.
What made-up word would you like to see enter the English language?
I don't really have any strong position on wanting it to. Let's scrop.
Scrop?
Yeah.
What's a scrop?
I don't know. We'll work on that later.
What's your first memory?
Oh, this is good. Because I have a first memory. I clearly, I remember waking up. I don't know how old I was, but I was really little, because like I was sharing a bed with my brother. He was at like that end of the bed, and I was at this end of the bed, and I just got up and just like sort of wandered out of the room and walked in my parents' room and opened the door. And then like I remember them sort of waking up and being really shocked and going, "Oh, it's Kenny." And I remember thinking, "Oh, that must be me. I must be Kenny."
I was like,
How old were you reckon?
I don't know. I'd say probably 2 or something. And like, so either I just like that was the moment that I became self-aware,
Yeah.
or it was I became self-aware because I'd just woken up at that point.
Yeah.
But I remember it quite clearly. It stuck with me at the time, and it's still there.
How do you feel about wombats, bro?
Wombats are really cool.
Yeah. That's good. What's something you learned last week?
Oh, I feel bad if I don't come up with an answer for this. I think did Trump lose the election last week?
Was that official?
I wouldn't have a fucking
I think it
clue.
might have been the week before, but I'm still going to run with that.
Yeah, nice. What's your perfect Saturday arvo/night?
Well, my usual perfect Saturday arvo is a bit of training here in the gym.
Yep.
Waiting for my girlfriend to finish her acupuncture clinic, and
Yep.
then we go out and have a dinner or
perfect.
enjoy the weekend.
Nice. Do you believe in ghosts?
Not really.
Good man.
He hates that question
Hate to do.
because he finds out they're real. What's the last words you're going to say before you die, bro?
That's a wrap.
I fucking love it. That's it.
Oh, perfect.
That is a wrap.
That is a wrap.
It's so weird how I still don't know what the last question is.
We've probably done them 12, 10 times.
More, and I'm just still like, what? But, mate, thank you for your time this afternoon. People wanting to get in contact, learning more about yourself, where can they find you?
Yeah. So on Insta, Bowen Hills Acupuncture. On my website, Bowen Hills Acupuncture and remedialtherapies.com.au.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sweet. Awesome. We'll throw that up in the show notes. Thank you so much for your time this afternoon. It's always
a pleasure.
having a chat
Cool.
with yourself. Now everyone else gets to experience our chats.
Awesome.
Thanks, brother.
Thanks.
Oh, shit.
Whoop, whoop.